The sun had begun to climb high above the river bend. Ripples of heat danced on the surface of the water, and the dry grasses of the floodplain seemed to shiver in the midday light. Near the edge of the water, a young lion cub, small-bodied, wide-eyed, brave beyond its years, stood on a muddy bank, pawing at the wet sand. The rest of its pride lounged just beyond the tall reeds, under the shade of a giant fig tree. They watched the scene with low murmurs and yawns. But something in that moment, something in the young cub's stance, told of danger. The cub's name was Keto. He had been born into the pride of old Malaringi, a lioness whose golden fur had scars and stories, and whose roar still carried over the plains. The pride was large, sons old enough to hunt, daughters ready to lead, and the cubs, playful and bold, tumbling in the grasses when the light was gentle. On this day, the world seemed quiet. A gentle breeze slid across the water, carrying the scent of reeds, wet earth, and distant game. But the river was not always gentle. It was a place of crossing, of risk, of predators hidden beneath its mud-brown surface. In the water lurked the silent jaws of the crocodile, and among the shallow pools the massive bulk of the hippo. Two great bodies of power, each with its own rules. Keto, in his youth, did not understand. He stepped down toward the water's edge, his reflection flickering in the ripple. One of the older lionesses, Zuri, raised her head and flicked an ear. She nudged Malaringi with her muzzle. At his riverbank play, the older lionesses stirred. But the sons, resting in the shade, simply watched. They believed in strength. They believed in effort. But they also believed in distance when danger was near. Keto pawed at a stick lying half buried in the mud. He splashed, and the water licked up his small paw. A faint hiss came from the reeds, and the surface of the water slid. A shape slid too, ancient, flat-eyed, silent. A crocodile. Keto froze. His cub muscles tensed. The pride's voices rose, and Malaringi stood, ears high, tail flicking. The scene in the water changed. The crocodile's dorsals broke the muddy current, then sank again. Hidden at the same time, on the far bank, something massive emerged. A hippo, huge, dark, a living boulder of muscle and hide. It snorted, the water bubbling around it. Keto turned his head. So close, so unsure. The pride stirred, but they were still too far for action. They watched helpless. The hippo advanced slowly toward Keto. The crocodile stayed under. The water surged lightly around the hippo's bulk. Keto let out a little mew, a cub sound, not a roar. His paws slipped on the wet mud, his eyes wide, his heart pounding. The older lions rose as one. Malaringi stepped forward, positioning her body between the bank and her cub. Zuri and one of the young sisters flanked the bank. The sons remained back. They were large. They were fierce if called. But the water was a place where even large lions hesitated. The hippo snorted again, louder this time, shaking the mud, the reeds, the water's edge. Keto backed up, small claws digging. He slipped, his body twisting. The crocodile eyes opened beneath the surface, slow, patient. The hippo charged. Big, heavy, unstoppable. The water exploded around him as he lunged onto the bank. Keto turned and ran. The bank collapsed under the hippo's weight. The stick he had been playing with splintered, mud-sprayed. Malaringi roared. A deep, grave sound that echoed across the plains. The sons charged forward, but the hippo rolled, hips heavy, tusks flashed, the weight of water and muscle bearing down. The crocodile slipped away, unnoticed. The hippo smacked its tusk tip into the bank, sand and water flying. Keto darted aside. One of the sons leapt, but the hippo spun and its tusk clipped the lion's flank. The lion yowled and fell back, chest heaving. The pride paused. They knew the ground rules now. The riverbanks were not theirs entirely. For in the water, or at the water's edge, strength gave way to surprise, to the hidden. The lioness Zuri, fearless, advanced closer, claws extended, ears pinned. Malaringi joined, but the hippo reared. With a huff and a grunt, it waded back into the water. The tide of challenge was over, at least in that moment. Keto scrambled into the shade of the fig tree. The pride gathered around him. Malaringi licked his neck, nuzzled him. He trembled, wet paws muddy, but alive. The shock remained in his eyes. He had learned. Maybe, but the story did not end there. The day stretched. The sun tilted. Shadows grew. The pride moved away from the bank to a sandy flat where the zebras grazed and the impalas flicked tails. Keto tried to play again, chasing his sisters, but the memory of the water lingered. He glanced back to the river. He felt the pull, curiosity and danger entwined as evening approached. The pride returned toward the river. The thirst was strong. Water was life. The cubs yawned. The older lions coaxed them forward. Keto found a safe spot among the roots of the fig tree. He drank from the river's edge, still watching. The hippo lay in the water, half submerged, tusks resting on the riverbank. The crocodile showed a dorsal ridge once in a while. The tension was quieter now, as though held in a breath. Then the wind shifted. From upstream came the smell of fresh cattle spoor. Local pastoral herds had moved near the river in the afternoon. The lions stirred. The older ones rose. Keto bounded after his mother. They crept toward the herd. The waterbank had turned into a place of prey. The moment for survival, not just for play, rippled across the pride's muscles. They crossed the sand, moving low. The hippo grunted and submerged deeper. The crocodile slipped into the water with a barely audible splash. The pride neared the cattle. The hunt began, silent and deadly in its intent. Keto watched, learned, feed on hot sand. The older lions fanned, encircled, pressed. The herd panicked. Dust rose. The lions darted and charged. Keto pranced beside his sister, mirroring claws in sand. A mother cow broke away. The lioness locked in. The cub watched, heart pounding, wanting to join but held back by Malaringi's low growl. Then suddenly the herd shifted. The lions were inside the pack, confusion everywhere. The cub moved forward a step too early. An adult pranced past, and the cows bolted across the plain. The lions chased. Keto tried to keep pace, but he stumbled. He fell, sand up his muzzle. He rose. The adult lions had already brought down one cow. The thunder of hooves, the yelp of the cow, the dust of the chase, all cascaded. The cub watched the kill. The older lions tore the hide, fed themselves. The young lions lapped the blood and muscles. Keto licked a stray drop. The taste of prey, raw and real, filled him. His body quivered with the rawness of life. But back at the riverbank, trouble grew. The hippo, disturbed by the hunt's noise, began to move upstream, water churning. The crocodile followed on the surface, eyes above the water, watching. In the distance, the cattle herd would cross near the river again as dusk deepened. And there, between the bank and the water, danger waited. Keto's world had expanded. Play, hunt, danger, and survival. As the pride finished feeding, the lions padded back toward the water for their evening drink. The sky was streaked pink and orange. The reeds rustled. The water shimmered. Keto walked beside his mother, but his attention was fixed on the hippo's arrival. The hippo stepped from the water, thick and dark, tusks glinting. It ambled to the bank, lowered its massive head, and drank. The crocodile glided alongside, silent and hungry. The lioness, Malaringi, paused. She stiffened, her ears flat, her eyes narrowed. The cub ignored her warning glance. He walked closer to the bank. The ground softened. The mud sucked his paws. The hippo sensed the motion. It lifted its head and fixed its gaze on Keto. The crocodile's jaws parted beneath the water. Suddenly, Keto tumbled, his small foot caught in the wet root of the fig tree. He cried out. The sound startled the hippo and drew the crocodile's attention. The bank ruptured with motion. The hippo charged like a crashing wall of water and bone. The crocodile shot forward. The lioness roared. The distance closed. Keto scrambled backward. The mud sucked. His heart hammered. The pride surged. In that moment, the two ancient predators, hippo and crocodile, joined in the hunt. Not for cattle, not for lions, but for opportunity. The hippo's tusks ripped at the bank. The crocodile's jaw snapped at Keto's flank. The lioness reached him with a flurry of paws and claws. Keto tumbled into shadow behind a root. The hippo slammed the bank again, water gushing. The crocodile circled, jaws open. The pride formed a shield. Siblings snarled, sons charged, lionesses bared teeth. The hippo roared, a sound of thunder. The crocodile hissed, a whisper of death. But in that moment of crisis, Keto acted. Instinct over fear. He scrambled onto the root, pushed up with all his young strength, and darted into the reeds. His small body sank into the tall grasses. The hippo paused. The crocodile struck at nothing but air. The lioness leapt across the root, claws finding purchase in wet bark, her roar shaking the water. The sun surrounded the water's edge, fanning out. The hippo bent low and snorted, its tusks scraping the bank. The crocodile dove beneath the water. For a long heartbeat, the world held still. Then the hippo turned, lumbered back into the water, tusks flicking droplets. The crocodile slipped away under the surface. The pride exhaled as one. The danger had passed. Hito emerged from the reeds, shaking, trembling. His mother bent to him, licking his head, tasting the fear on his fur. He looked up at her, his eyes full of question, full of wonder. The older lioness Zuri padded up and nudged him, her voice soft but firm. "You must stay close," she said in her lion way. "You must watch. You must learn." Hito nodded, silent. He had learned, but the story continued. The night fell like a dark blanket. The stars appeared above the river. The lion pride settled on the sand under the fig tree. Hito curled between two sisters, body still trembling. The river whispered. The hippo grunted. The crocodile slid unseen. The wilderness exhaled. The pride's breathing slowed. The night pressed in that darkness. The river held memory. The bank held danger. The swamp held patience. Hito dreamt of water, tusks, jaws. He dreamt of running by his mother's side, of roaring, of claws on hide. And when the moon rose full and round, he awoke. The pride stood. It was time to move. They would cross the plain to the hunting grounds. They would drink again at the river before dawn. They would teach the cubs to endure, to stalk, to survive. Hito walked beside his mother. The night air cooled his coat. The stars reflected in the river. The hippo lay in the water still. The crocodile rippled beneath. The lions moved low. They were silent. They were padding across sand and grass. The world was alive. The world was wild. The cub's breath steadied. His heart steadied. He was no longer simply a cub. He was part of the pride. He was part of the rule. Survive, learn, move together. The river bend came again. The hippo heard them and dipped under. The crocodile raised its eye. The lions reached the bank. The mother lion nudged Hito. "Drink," she said. He dipped his muzzle. The water rippled. He tasted the cool depth. The hippo watched. The crocodile watched. But the pride was there, strong, coordinated, alive. Hito raised his head. He saw his reflection again. He saw his mother's reflection behind him. He heard the night wind. He smelled the grass. He felt the weight of his small body growing strong in the world. In the morning light the pride would hunt again. The cub would play again. But he would not forget the bank, the tusk, the silent jaws, or his mother's roar. He would carry the memory like a shield. And when the day came that he must stand alone, as the older sons now stood, he would recall the river, the hippo, the crocodile, and remember that self-belief, motion, and unity matter more than brute strength alone. For in the wild, every bank is contested, every water a mirror of danger, every cub a story waiting to be written. And the pride understood this. They moved together. They guarded each other. They learned. The hippo and crocodile were parts of the world. The cub was part of the pride. The river whispered as the pride departed. The hippo plunged back, creating a wave that washed the stick on the bank. The crocodile settled under the mud. The grasses bent with the wind. Hito looked back one last time, paws already lifting toward the tall grass. He was safe for now. He was loved. He was part of the wild. And so the story ends, not with defeat, but with knowing. The lions watched helplessly for a moment, and then they acted. The hippo and crocodile tested the cub, and the cub survived. The pride stood together. The wild went on. The day became memory. The memory became lesson. And in the shifting grass of the floodplain, the young lion cub became more than just a cub. He became a witness to survival.